The odd thing about a teetering stack of books is that it never grows any smaller, it just keeps getting bigger. Isn't that a surprise? I picked up The Infinite Sadness of Small Appliances by Glenn Dixon, coming to us from HarperCollins. Not sure what I was expecting, and it was an absolute joy. I said that in a very deadpan way, but it was an absolute joy. The Infinite Sadness of Small Appliances is one of those reads where I had an expectation, probably from the title of the book, and it was completely fulfilled. I think I was looking for something that was kind of whimsy and a bit cutesy, and it's cleverer than that, but it is that sci-fi sci-fi whimsy is what I would call it. It's basically, the plot is there is a household, and in that household are an older couple, and they have a daughter who no longer lives with them, and there's been a history in her past, and that's why she's no longer living with them. And Harold is our main sort of interest, and the wife Edie is, as the story opens, very unwell and is dying. And Harold reads to her, and at the beginning of the book, he's reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And the appliances, and this is the fun part of it, the appliances are sort of listening, but that's what the book is about. It is about listening, and it's about who is listening and who is listening to what and what are the stories we're telling. The appliances are namely Scout, who's our first appliance, and she's named herself Scout because she's liked this story that Harold is reading to Edie. And apart from that, we have fridge, we have auto, we have watch, and we have clock. And watch is the one, who kind of is in charge of everything. And all of the appliances have been given, have more or less sophisticated, and Scout is a very modern, very advanced model. So she's the one who's kind of, and she identifies as pushing this story along. She's the one who's noticing all the things and beginning to ask questions. So we're right in this kind of area of sentience and all of that. When there are few other characters who come into this, because we're in a world which is very appliance run, and we have Kate, who is the daughter, who will come back into the story once things start to unravel and Harold's future is looking a bit grim. And Adrian, who's a young boy who comes to play Edie's piano, because Edie had been his piano teacher. And Adrian is a young fella from a house down the road. He's got no piano himself, and he wants to do his grade 5 piano exams. And between this little gang of appliances and this young boy and Kate who comes back, there will be a move to ensure that Harold, upon the passing of his wife, and that is not a spoiler, will not be removed from the house and from his beloved first editions. You have to read it to see how this pans out and the way it goes. But it's a really, really, really interesting read on things that are very, very much at the forefront of our minds now, which is, this nonsense that people are trying to make us all swallow about, there may be sentient robots and sentient AI, which, is a kind of, is this a real fear, or is this just the tech bros really trying to be total idiots? We also had the idea of being surveilled, surveillant, and is your house, communicating data about you back to the baddies, which is not so much nonsense, maybe. So we're kind of in a domain which is now familiar to us, so it's not entirely sci-fi, but our authors kind of pushed this boundary out into that domain of, well, what if? It's the most delightful what if, because it is in its own way one of those little books that's incredibly tender, incredibly It is charming, and I use that word with as sort of a caveat to myself, because using certain words are like, oh God, you couldn't think of something more original to say. But it is, it's tender, it's funny, it's whimsical, it's a kind of balm to the soul. And it does go into the territory of sort of, well, what are we if we, as a human, if you're disconnecting yourself from nature, from your environment, I mean, can you do that? And what does it make you, you know, and are humans going to get boxed into smaller and smaller sort of confines of what they are, and how machinistically we can have our lives, we can live our lives and have our lives run for us? Or how do we kind of get out of that and remind ourselves that there is that side to us that is nature-based? And Dixon goes into this, and it's light. I think you could have made so many things could go wrong with a story like this, but he keeps a very light touch, enough pace to keep it really, you know, quite gripping, and then it's sort of none of the cliches of, and we all live happily ever after in the end, because, you know, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but things will resolve in their own way. But it's an utter joy. Cannot recommend it highly enough. And it's a palate cleanser. You know, it sort of, it's not heavy going, so you pick it up and you feel lighter after it. I did. That's it. I have waffled on. You can like and subscribe, and then let me know if this one has met your expectations, etc., etc. That's it for now, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.